Today's edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We were bringing you lasted for farming sources and information sponsored by AgriGold. We were here with our first guest of 2025, Matthew Kruse from Comstock in West Des Moines, Iowa. We were talking about the commodities markets for today's program. Well, we are approaching the new administration about tariffs and demand. How much does it cost to have a tariffs to China? Otherwise, we will see what happened in a few days. This is your rural news sponsored by AgriGold reps Brett Tar. The Midwest is likely to have inches of snow on Friday morning in the Midwest and around in central Illinois near Peoria and south of I-74 near Springfield. The statistic of the hurricane season of 2024 to the Gulf Coast is cost more than $24 billion in Florida for the Hurricane Milton. This hurricane season of 2024 subjected the Category 5 Hurricane Milton to the panhandle of Florida and Georgia, especially in North Carolina and East Tennessee. Finally, the World Supply and Demand Report is coming up on January 10th from the Department of Agriculture. This is your rural news. What happened in the agricultural industry? We were here with our first guest of 2025, Matthew Kruse from Comstock in West Des Moines, Iowa. How are you for this morning and a Happy New Year?
Happy New Year. I'm doing good. Hopefully we get a better rally to start off 2025.
Let's begin with our discussion on the E15 for around the year and the 45Z for Wednesday. How's explained to our audience about in Washington?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of discussion on is E15 going to be year-round E15, I should say, because we do have E15 for part of the year in the summer and in only certain states. But that the success of that is fairly limited, right? Because a lot of gas stations don't want to go to the time and expense of putting in E15 pumps or changing their pump structure if it's not something that they can sell year round. And so in this latest update in the Farm Bill, there was the early drafts had it in there to put in year round, and that was a big deal because I've seen estimates where every 1% that we increase in ethanol usage in our gasoline blend, that could represent an additional 100 million bushels. And so you go from what we're at now, E10, 10% blend to 15% blend, you're talking a half a billion bushels each year just from that little change. And so it's a big deal for us, but unfortunately in the final draft that they passed, it was taken out in the last minute in the last draft. And I think we have the House Speaker from Louisiana, kind of an oil state to thank for that. So unfortunately, we're still back to square one there. That's kind of the latest news that I have. So as far as 45Z, we're still waiting for more clarity. So it's just still kind of in that sit and wait approach. I haven't really seen any updates there. You're probably not going to see any updates, in my opinion, for a little while. Certainly not until Trump probably takes over, and I don't know that it's going to be a huge priority for him day one, but I'm hopeful that eventually they'll get that figured out. So maybe by this spring we'll get some clarity there.
What happened with the 45Z from Wednesday? And did you look at it from Treasury Department?
Uh, I guess I haven't. Maybe I missed something, but I haven't seen any major update there. Maybe you have some more information there, but I think we're still waiting on some more clarity from the Treasury Department.
We know that you were in Brazil. How's it going with the crops in Brazil for right now?
I'm still here in Brazil actually, and I won't come back to Iowa until the end of January. And buying all the crops in Brazil look great. Pretty much I would say 80 to 90% of the country's growing region is getting adequate to above adequate rainfall. And so there's parts of Mato Grosso where they're just kind of starting to harvest already. Um, but the bulk of it won't really begin until late January, early February. But the forecast, for January for most of Brazil looks to be very good. It's really just the southernmost state of Rio Grande do Sul, which I think is leaning dry here in the forecast and might have some crop stress, and then on over into Argentina, which is also leaning drier. I think that's going to be the case going on into next week. And then kind of into mid-January, I see some scattered showers coming back into Argentina and southern Brazil, which I think will kind of help improve conditions there. But yeah, overall, I mean, yield I think is getting larger in Brazil, and it's probably flatlined, and in Argentina maybe getting a little smaller, but not nothing huge yet. But that can change quickly. So, but by and all, I don't think the trend has really changed there much. I think you should still be expecting a large crop overall from South America.
How is the beans planting season and second corn crop in Mato Grosso for right now?
So yeah, they don't, begin their second crop of corn until they get the beans out, and so it really doesn't begin here in force until late January. Now there are some I've seen gotten videos on social media or sent to me of some farms that have gotten a really early start, but that's a pretty minor cases, and so for the most part, the bulk of the second crop corn crop won't start until late January, and most of it will actually go in February, and then the laggards will kind of finish up in early March. So it's still pretty early there, but so it's no major indication yet of what the crop is going to be. The first crop of corn is in right now in Brazil, and they finished planting, and I think you might see some reports here soon of first crop corn actually being harvested. And that's a lot smaller, the first crop, but I think overall conditions are pretty decent for that.
Is there anything? How about the cattle markets and hogs markets for right now?
Well, in the case of the cattle, it's surprisingly strong. I mean, we just keep coming back anytime there's a pullback in the market. We go back and re-challenge, retest the highs again. And so we saw yesterday we had a really strong up day. I think they're just kind of markets looking at pasture conditions, and as the weather is gonna get real cold here. It's kind of starting this weekend in a lot of the Western United States, and so it could hurt some of the production there, but yeah, I don't know. I keep thinking this market's going to turn at some point, but it hasn't so far. But So far every correction that we've had has just kind of been a buying opportunity, and the market seems to come back. But in the case of hogs, we've had a good run here, but kind of another setback as well. We just keep improving our productivity, and our litter count per continues to improve, and just anytime there's a shortfall, we just given time we build up production to kind of fill it in the case of the hogs. And so that trend has been happening for a long time, isn't anything new, and so I don't know why it would change going forward.
What was the cattle on feeds report back from December before Christmas?
What was the cattle on feed report in December? I think it came in pretty neutral, if I remember right. I don't know that there was any major surprises there. I think placements were right in line with what the market was looking for. I think just lately here, it's kind of looked at the weather and kind of the pasture conditions, in my opinion.
Is there anything else that would you like to tell the farmer about the corn basis for right now until January 20th?
Well, basis is pretty regional. In those areas in Illinois where they got those hellacious yields of, 280 bushels. Um, I don't know that the basis is probably going to improve all that much. In our area of Northwest Iowa, we got a decent basis. I think historically at harvest can be 40 or 50 under, and we're probably already at we've been between 10 and 20 over. And so I think as time goes on, depending on where you're at, in the Western Corn Belt where the crop was maybe a little bit shorter, I think you can expect it to improve given time. But I don't know that you can make that case if you're in one of those fortunate areas where they had really strong production. And so I think if I was in Illinois, I'd probably be a little bit more aggressive selling on this most recent rally. And I think at Comstock, I want to say we're 2/3 sold right now of the old crop, and still hanging on to the last third. And we're on this rally, we're getting pretty close to where I'd probably let go of the last third here pretty soon. If we get one more move up higher, like what we've been seeing. If you see the corn chart, we've been kind of forming a rounding bottom, and I think we got one more move, at least one more move higher, I think, in the corn, before the market kind of begins to look out to the acreage in what we're going to be planting next year, and that'll kind of start to take place here in early March.
Do you have any final thoughts on the beans markets in Brazil?
Well, I think this recent rally here was probably a gift in my opinion. Yeah, I don't. Maybe what's the dryness has provided a little bit of support to the market where we're not maybe going to drop below $9 anymore, but the any loss in Argentina is being made up in Brazil. I'd put it that way. And so I don't think that anything has really changed in the last couple weeks. Overall, South America crop has gotten larger during the holidays, not smaller.
Thanks, Matthew. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir.
This is Matthew Kruse from Comstock in West Des Moines, Iowa, on back roads of Illinois. This is your open numbers of the commodity market sponsored by Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Incorporated. Corn futures are down at 4 to 6 cents for March corn. Soybean futures are down at 5 to 4 cents for January beans. Wheat futures are up at 3 to 5/4 for May wheat. Let's go to the livestock markets for today's opening. Cattle futures are up for a January contract with 5 to 10 cents. Feeder cattle are up at 3 to 4 cents for February cattle. Lean hogs are down at 6 to 8 cents on February hogs. Crude oil are up to 9 to 8 cents per barrel. Dow Jones is up to 8 points. This is your cash hog weight from the Department of Agricultural Indemnities, Iowa, for Iowa and Minnesota hogs weight. The Iowa weight is confidential because of the new year and the holiday season. Let's take a look at the loin and the butt markets. As price 79.25 for the loin markets. As price 109.55 for the butt markets. This been your cash hog weight in the markets. This is your commodity markets from Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Incorporated. All things considered down for today's close. Here as we go. March corn was down at 4.60 on the quarter. January beans was down for today's exchange for 8 to 5 cents on 9.91. May Chicago wheat was down at 5.29 to 5 to 10/4. Let's go with livestock markets for today's close. January cattle are down at 196.5 for 50 cents to the quarter. February cattle are down at 264.17.5 for 25 cents off to the high of the day. February hogs are down at 80.775 to the quarter. Thanks to Matthew Kruse from Comstock in West Des Moines, Iowa. You can listen to the show for today's program on YouTube and whenever you get your podcast. This been Back Roads of Illinois. I am Cesar Delgado. Have a good weekend.